Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, text number 16 onwards. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashitam atmanah tesham aditya vajjnanam prakashayati tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which the science is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. A person who is in ignorance cannot understand his own spiritual nature and the supreme spiritual nature of the Supreme Lord Krishna. But the opposite of ignorance is knowledge. Knowledge lights up everything. Ignorance is darkness. In darkness we cannot see clearly, but when there is light, everything can be seen properly. So when somebody is blessed with this culture of knowledge, transcendental knowledge, he gets enlightened. And it's like the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Everything becomes clearly known. So such a person then develops a very, very special type of consciousness, where he begins to see everyone as part and parcel of God. Equal vision he develops. Text 17. Tad buddhayas tad atmanas tan nishthas tat parayanaha gachanti apunaravrittim jnana niradhuta kalmashaha. When one's intelligence, mind, faith and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So what happens is, when somebody is blessed with transcendental knowledge means which is antimatter, which is not related to this world, which is divine, knowledge of God, knowledge of our own spiritual nature, knowledge of the purpose behind this creation, knowledge of the spiritual world. So when a person understands this, he likes to engage his body, mind, words, everything, his thought process in the Supreme Lord. And the more we remember the Supreme Lord, the more we engage in his devotional service, the more our hearts become purified. And the more we get purified, the more we become qualified for liberation, for freedom from the cycle of birth and death, for freedom from the transmigration of the soul. And then we also develop an equal vision. This discrimination, this vision where we see somebody as our enemy, somebody as our friend, somebody as Indian, Chinese, Pakistani, or somebody as a European or an American. This is a vision of duality, and it only takes place on the material platform. So many people try to create equality, but that's not possible on a material platform, because there is going to be distinction. Bodies are different, because material platform is a platform of matter, body, which keeps changing every moment. And there is going to be distinction. Man is different from women. Children are different from the elderly people. And you can see that. So there is going to be discrimination, distinction. Equality is not possible on a material platform. Even if we try hard, we see differently when we look at other species of life, and we see people from other countries. It is just ingrained, deeply ingrained in our hearts. So we cannot give up this vision as long as we are in material consciousness. So, but when we are enlightened with knowledge, we understand the goal of all knowledge is Krishna, is God, and we start engaging in his devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, etc. As our hearts become purified, then we come to a spiritual platform, and from there we start seeing everyone equally. As is explained in text number 18, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Panditaha Samadarshinaha. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. For him, all these personalities, all these living entities are equal because he's not seeing the external body, he's seeing the same spiritual spark. He sees that everyone may be different externally, but inwardly, internally, he has the same spiritual quality. Everyone is a part and parcel of God. And therefore, every body is a temple of the Lord, and he is very respectful to even an ant, a dog eater, or a learned Brahmana. So he does not consider purity or impurity based on external circumstances. So only on a spiritual platform can we be free from the vision of duality. Only on a spiritual platform equality is possible, because everybody is spiritual, we know. Everybody is a part and parcel of God. Everyone is a member of the same big family. On a material platform, we keep thinking, I am this, he is that, she is like that, this is a lower species, this is an animal, this is a bird, this is a beast. But on a spiritual platform, when we see through the external bodies, we see everybody is the same quality, part and parcel of God, child of God. Everyone is spiritual. And if everyone is spiritual, where is the question of having a vision of duality, considering somebody's enemy, friend, or belonging to some different nationality, a male, female, all this will disappear. So what we need in the world today is this vision, and this is only possible through a spiritual culture. On a material platform, we can build so many United Nations, we can build as many organizations as possible. Distinctions will continue to exist, and the duality will not disappear. Spiritual platform is a platform of equality. And that's certainly possible if we are blessed with transcendental knowledge. For that, we need to hear from the scriptures, from the right sources, from the bona fide representatives of Krishna, from God, of God. And gradually, as we hear and as we apply that knowledge in our life, incorporate spiritual practices, our hearts become purified, and the more we become purified, the more we see purity everywhere, the more we see that pure spiritual spark in everyone. Text 19. Iheva tair jitah sargo yesham samya sthitam manah nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitah. So now Krishna continues with the same theme. And what is the result of having such consciousness, equal vision, by acquiring the transcendental knowledge? And we can also understand what is it that we are going to achieve by listening to this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita regularly, that we have been doing since few weeks. So this is the result which is waiting for us, also if we are sincere in our efforts. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity, that means those who have developed equal vision because of transcendental knowledge, purifying hearts, they have already conquered the conditions of birth and they are already considered to be liberated. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated as Brahman. That means on the spiritual platform. Brahman also refers to purity. It has different meanings in different contexts. Here it means they are flawless like Brahman, means they are pure as Brahman, the spirit, the spiritual part. And this, they are already situated in Brahman, means on the spiritual platform. So because one gets the next body according to his consciousness, but if the consciousness is spiritual, seeing everybody as part and parcel of God, that's a divine consciousness. So naturally, he has already conquered the conditions of birth and death, because maintaining this consciousness will be easy for him even at the last moment. And if somebody has divine consciousness at the last moment, he will not take any more material birth. He'll get liberated and go to the spiritual realm. There he'll live a life of complete bliss. 20. Na praharshyet priyam prapya no dvijet prapya chapriyam sthira buddhir assamodho brahmavid brahmani sthitah. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. That means he is already liberated. 21. Bahya sparshesh asaktatma vindati atmani yat sukham sa brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam ashnute. And what is the outcome of having this consciousness? Krishna is answering that. And what is the consciousness? Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within, because he is understood. He is a part and parcel of God. He has nothing to do with matter, which is flickering and which gives flickering pleasure, which is a source of great anxiety. He is taking pleasure in the self. He is enjoying on a spiritual platform through spiritual senses, getting completely purified. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. We have to be thoroughly convinced about this, that what we are looking for is eternal happiness. Happiness that is ever increasing, full of variety, can be shared with our loved ones. That's not possible on a material platform or in material objects. It's only possible on a spiritual platform. We are made in such a way that we can be truly happy when we are in touch with Krishna, when we are connected to Him deeply through devotional service. Service is the best form to remain connected to the object of our service. And service begins with hearing about Him, chanting His names, remembering like that. So that's our eternal constitutional position, and the more we are situated in that position, understanding we are His parts and parcels, we are supposed to serve Him, we are supposed to make Him happy, and in return we also become happy. This is the secret of happiness. Otherwise, how much ever anyone tries on a material platform, happiness is very, very short-lived. But when we start connecting with the divine through devotional service, chanting, hearing, remembering, worshipping His deity form, praying, darshan, associating with devotees, honoring the food which is offered to Him as prasad, these are the activities which truly make us happy, because these are enacted on the real platform, the spiritual platform, and we are spiritual. Therefore, it is very natural to us. And the more we do things which are natural to us, which are intrinsic to our nature, the more we become happy. The more we try to do something else which is against our nature, the more we become anxious, the more we face miseries. Text 22. Yehi samsparshacha bhoga dukha yonaya evate adiyantavantah kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which I just explained. Which are those sources of misery? Which are due to contact with the material senses, matter. O son of Kunti, such pleasures, why such pleasure brings misery? Because the nature of matter is, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. However, pleasures in spiritual lives, on a spiritual platform, they don't have a beginning and an end. They keep increasing, they are everlasting, they are eternal. So an intelligent person who is enlightened with knowledge doesn't face this problem, beginning and an end. So what happens is, when we become attached to anything material, when it truly ends, then that gives a lot of pain. So anything that has beginning will have an end. Our material bodies, our material relationships, they are always going to give us suffering in the future. So we just deal with matter as much as is required, but attachment, we give our heart to spirit, the soul, God. We engage our body in this world as much as is required for self-preservation, but our heart must only be given to Krishna. Our heart must always be focused on Him. That will make us happy, truly happy. Even if you don't have faith, just try it out. Start chanting His names on a regular basis. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hear from the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, read them. Hear from devotees, associate with the devotees. Pray to Him, worship His deity form. Offer some flowers, some tulsi leaves, some fruit, some water, some sweet. Just see, start dressing Him up. Just see the kind of pleasure that you experience. And the experience of this pleasure will help you deal with the pains of the material world. So we have to definitely have a very, very strong connection with Krishna through our seva, beginning with hearing and chanting. that will truly help us deal with the miseries of this world. As and when they come, they inevitably will into everyone's life. So this will give us strength to deal with that. Text 23. Shaknoti heva yah shodhum praksharira vimokshanat kama krodot bhavam vegam sayuktah sa sukhi naraha. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So people think it is the nature of the mind, it will give rise to many desires, and people think, okay, this desire I must fulfill. No, just because the desires are popping up in your head doesn't mean you have to fulfill them also. So many desires are unwanted, they are sinful. So human life is meant for some restraint, some regulation. So anybody who can tolerate the urges of the material senses and check his desire, his anger, he is the one who remains happy in this world, Krishna says, not the one who strives to fulfill those material desires. If you tolerate, you're happy in the long run. Every time we tolerate a temptation, we know which could be bad, and if we thoroughly introspect, we know what is right, what is wrong. And that right and wrong should not be based on the material platform or the majority of population of this world or what the social media is saying, whatever. That right and wrong should be based on scriptures, because they are the law books. Ultimately judgment happens based on that. Whatever they say is good and bad. So if we can just learn to tolerate the temptations, every time we tolerate, we should know it may be difficult in the beginning, but every time we tolerate, we become strong. Every time we give in to a temptation, we become weak. So anybody who can tolerate, it may be in the beginning it could be difficult, but in the long run it will be the source of happiness. But if you give in to a temptation, you become further weak, plus there is going to be extra sinful reaction for that. So tolerate the urges of the material senses. Be very careful about what you speak, what you do, what you eat, how you earn, how you enjoy. Just tolerate, knowing what is right, what is wrong, and that way you will become happy. So it's a misconception to think that one who strives to fulfill all his desires is happy. The Gita's perspective is different. One who controls his desires and regulates them, he is the one who becomes happy, not the one who falls prey to the temptations. Text 24. Yuvantah sukhoantar aramas tathantar jyotirevayah sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuta adhigacchati. Continuing with the same theme, Krishna says, one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Such a person will attain perfection, who is experiencing pleasure on a spiritual platform rather than on a material platform. Material platform means again coming back to this world, again going through happiness, distress, honor, dishonor, praise, criticism, birth, old age, disease, death, miseries caused by mind and body, others, natural calamities. Spiritual platform means a platform of happiness. Even while living in this world, one can be completely liberated from bondage, frustration and suffering if one is in connection with the Divine, with the Supreme Lord through his devotional service. Text 25. Labhante brahma nirvanam rishayah kshina kalmashaha chinna dedha yatatmanah sarvabhuta hiterataha. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Now Krishna just summarizes everything. Those who are not affected by the force of desires, urges of the mind and the senses, those who are finding pleasure within, connecting to their spiritual self and not searching for it outside anywhere, and who are always working with compassion for the welfare of all living beings. What kind of welfare? Not just on the body platform, but on the platform of the soul. Not just taking care of the body, but also raising their consciousness to God consciousness, the real welfare work. And people who are leading a sinless life, free from sins, such people achieve liberation in the end in the Supreme. And there are two paths by which this can be accomplished, because we discussed how somebody who's enlightened with knowledge, he develops this kind of consciousness and he achieves liberation. But that knowledge is not enough. We have to apply it to get the result, right? So the application part to come to this platform of liberation, to achieve these results, after hearing, after acquiring this knowledge, how to put it in practice, there are two ways to achieve liberation, to come to that platform of equality, which is the application of the knowledge, transcendental knowledge. There are two ways. The first, Krishna explains in text number 27 and 28. So let me just complete text 26, and then the last three verses explain the two paths, which is the application of the transcendental knowledge, which can lead to the benefits which we just discussed from text number 16 onwards. 26. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. The same thing. Whose goal is spiritual, who are working towards it, they definitely achieve liberation, which is the purpose of life. And what are the ways? There are two ways he mentions to achieve liberation, which is the application of the transcendental knowledge, which helps us develop an equal vision. See, we have to understand, in the beginning it is explained, one who is blessed with transcendental knowledge, he develops equal vision, and then he becomes free from the dualities. He does not engage in anything which is giving flickering happiness. Somebody who can control his senses, finding his pleasure within. So this is the result of knowledge. But simply hearing is not enough. We have to apply. So here, that is the result of knowledge, but not simply hearing, but the application. Now, application part is being discussed here. So Krishna has already discussed what is the result of acquiring transcendental knowledge. It frees us from ajnana, ignorance, helps us develop an equal vision by raising us to a spiritual platform, and then helps us achieve liberation, gives us clarity that we don't have to engage in sources of misery or matter which gives us only temporary happiness, and which teaches us the real happiness we are looking for is within. But how to come to that platform after acquiring that knowledge? That needs application of that knowledge, and therefore there are two ways Krishna explains towards the end of this chapter to achieve these perfections, to achieve this liberation as per the transcendental knowledge, to come to that platform of equality and real intelligence and liberation. One path is described in text number 27 and 28, which is the path of Dhyana Yoga, and the 29th verse explains the path of Bhakti Yoga. Two paths. He is just introducing these two paths. Text 27 and 28. Sparshan kritva bahirbahyam chakshuschayvantare bhruvoh pranapano samo kritva nasabhyantaracharino yatendriya mano buddhir munir moksha parayanah vigattecha bhayakrodho yah sada mukta eva saha. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses and intelligence, the transcendentalist, aiming at liberation, becomes free from desire, fear and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So this is the path of Dhyana Yoga. He just introduces that. And in the next chapter, which is 6th chapter, he will elaborate upon this. So he introduces two paths. The first is the Dhyana Yoga, which is explained in chapter number 6. And then the path explained in text number 29, which is the last verse of this chapter, which is the path of Bhakti Yoga. Krishna explains this path in chapters 7 to 12. He gives 6 full chapters for Bhakti Yoga because that is the essence of the Gita. Other types of yogas he has just discussed in few verses. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richyati. He says, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. One who understands my supreme spiritual nature and is in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the master of the entire creation, and thus engages in my devotional service, Krishna says, such a person will definitely become free from material miseries, or he will become liberated. So 2 paths have been introduced here, and Krishna will describe them in detail in the next few chapters. So this is the last part of the chapter named as Karma Yoga Action in Krishna Consciousness, chapter number 5. So just to summarize, text number 17 to 26, Krishna explained, or 16 to 26, that since the super soul resides in every living being, the advanced spiritualist, because he is blessed with transcendental knowledge and he has applied it, is able to see every life form, be it plant, animal or human, as a temple of God. In this way, utmost respect is given to every living being. Otherwise, it's not possible. On a material platform, we can keep making plans. Unless somebody comes to a spiritual platform, we cannot develop this vision. Different bodies with different qualities are produced according to one's past actions. Yet each entity is of the same spiritual quality. Thus, the spiritualist is not only free from racism, nationalism, ageism and sexism, but also speciesism. He has that clarity of thought. And later on, text number 27 to 29, particularly this chapter emphasizes the temporary nature of our stay in this world. We come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. In the interim, our claims to proprietorship and attachments to various objects create fear, insecurity and conflict. But change is a constant theme in this world. Our relationships are changing, the environment is changing, our possessions are changing, and our desires are also changing. To the extent that we develop a sense of detachment, understanding the Supreme Lord to be the proprietor, and ourselves as simply caretakers, to that extent we can experience a sense of peace within. Interestingly, it is this inner peace that brings about global peace, a community of individuals who are free from attachment, greed, envy, and covetousness in what this world really needs. So this is how this chapter ends. Now 6th chapter is extremely interesting. A lot of things that we'll find very relevant in our lives today will be discussed. So look forward to your association further through these podcasts. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.